Welcome to the Knowledge Gap Show. We have some really interesting episodes coming up. It's going to be pretty awesome and insightful because the first person we're interviewing today is a college student named Ian Basham. Say what's up, Ian.
What up?
There he is.
Yes,
and Ian is probably one of the top 5 or 10 people that I would know who's been a friend of mine for a couple of years, who I believe is absolutely maximizing college the way it should be done, or at least the way that it can be done to get the most out of it, to set yourself up for the most opportunities when you graduate. So you're going to want to stick around for the whole thing and listen to some of Ian's mentalities and some of the ideas and tips that we give you guys, because we want you to maximize your college experience. We want you to graduate and love what you do instead of ending up like the 88% of people who hate their job their entire life. You're going to spend a third of your life working, so you might as well be doing things that you love. So Ian's a friend of mine. He sold with the Southwestern program, which I talk about a lot, going door to door and doing things like that. He goes to Oklahoma State University. He's a general business major, sophomore from Tulsa, Oklahoma, which I have lived there before. He's 20 years old. Ian, welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
Feeling shiesty, baby. I'm ready to get after this. This is going to be fun, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. This is going to be a blast.
Feeling shiesty. I guess that's familiar with. I know you're a business major. I feel like the common trend in society is that you're supposed to graduate college in 4 years or else there's something wrong with you. And you're telling me you're taking a gap year, right? Why does that make sense? Doesn't it make you look bad or less smart than everybody else?
Yeah, totally. That's why I'm doing it. I just want to get not smart. No. No, the main reason why I'm taking the gap year is to really focus on developing myself outside of school. And there's totally a ton that you can do inside of school. I mean, I'm going back in a couple months, but I think just the route that I saw best for me, because I graduated high school in 2020 and then came out for my first summer of Southwestern selling, books, educational systems, door to door. And after that first summer, I was kind of like, man, I was still debating between state school or community college. And I ended up picking the community college route because I didn't really exactly know why. I kind of felt it was kind of God just pulling me there, because I really wasn't sure of all my friends went this way. Should I go that way, or should I just, go to community college? And it was a lot easier for the application process. I didn't have to do as much. Community college was pretty simple. But it kind of allowed me to just in a sense, because I was very immature in high school. I was focused on the wrong things. I was focused on a lot of ego, a lot of pride, a lot of popularity, all that kind of stuff. And so going to community college allowed me to draw away from all the people I'd been around in high school and just kind of focus on after doing the hardest thing I'd ever done, Southwestern, selling books and stuff, coming off of that summer just allowed me to really actually maximize my education, especially doing something where, you're sitting down with families who definitely aren't as privileged as I was growing up. I'm really grateful for the life that my parents gave me and everything. And, seeing education from a whole different perspective coming off of the summer, I just valued it so much more. So then going into the school year, it really allowed me to just really focus on my education and just getting the most out of it for my first year of community college. So that's kind of the approach I've taken. And from Southwestern, opportunities came up. Since I'm at community college, there's no rush to go to state school or graduate.
So essentially you did a year of community college.
Yeah.
After you did this really difficult internship with real world application, right?
Yeah.
And then you were like, okay, after the year of community college, you were like, okay, well, I could develop more skills that are more valuable, essentially, is what you're trying to say. Is that what you're saying? That's why you're doing that?
100%. Yeah, right? 100%.
It's what people talk about after you graduate college. They very rarely talk about your GPA. They very rarely talk about the classes you took. Unless it's a very technical degree, accounting and engineering and med school. Obviously, the super technical architecture, all of those things, they will talk about those things for a lot of it to really make sure you understand that. Because a lot of those things is for accounting, for example, fraud's a big thing. Architecture is you're building bridges where people drive their vehicles and families over, right? Medical, someone's life is in your hands. So a lot of those degrees, law, those are very technical, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're a business major, it's can you do business? Which has a lot more to do with your communication, leadership, sales skills, things like that. And those are ways to complement yourself that are different compared to, what you're learning in school, right? You're 20, you did community college, right? I don't know if Oklahoma, they do it for free like they do in Tennessee, but what'd you learn? Was it worth it?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. It's actually kind of funny, man, that it's called community college, because there's no real community at community college. or the one that I went to. But really, the main reason for doing that was just to get the gen eds out of the way for free. Because 2020 COVID, like everybody, I saw all my peers going to state school, paying all this money, but it was like, dude, we're doing the exact same thing. Everybody's on Zoom, everybody's doing stuff online. It's like, I'm not going to pay 10 grand more to do the same thing that you're doing. I mean, I got all the gen eds out of the way, but as far as business or anything like that, didn't really do any of that.
Yeah, learn how to write a paper. Let me ask you this, because I had a lot of friends who went to community college and they would end up at University of Tennessee and then they have to retake all their gen ed classes. Do you think that's going to happen to you?
No, I know for a fact it's not going to happen to me. I wouldn't have done it the way I did it if I knew that would, oh gosh, that would just wreck me. Because I mean, I've already kind of set it up, and it's really cool just with the community college I went to, Tulsa Community College, because it's like a direct gateway into Oklahoma State. Everything is really clear cut. All the people are great with helping get everything over, so it's nice. For sure. But I've heard of that.
Yeah, that happens to a lot.
I've heard of that.
It must be user error then. It must be like, oh, I'll go to this community college and then I'll go to state school and then maybe changing the state school.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So out of this gap year, right, you're going to graduate a year later. Like, why do you think that's not going to hinder your future?
Well, I mean, a couple of different things. I've thought about it a lot, and I've just from Southwestern and all the types of people I've encountered, and especially students and friends of mine even. There's a couple of different ways to approach a gap year. So, I mean, if it wasn't for Southwestern, I wouldn't be taking a gap year. If I didn't see an opportunity where I could grow more than going to school, then I would be at school, because I know like all the opportunities, all the people you get to surround yourself with, there's a lot with school. And my motivation for going back to school isn't necessarily for the education. If I wanted to get great at business, wouldn't probably be to go to school. But it's more so to develop this great network of people and really expand opportunities and things. So that's why I'm going back to school. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question about the gap year, it's like the way I've seen people do it from talking with other people. It's like, you know, I'll hear people say, yeah, I took a gap year. And I was like, oh, what'd you do? I just kind of stayed at home, worked, you know, went to the gym. And it's like, that doesn't really sound like you're maximizing much out of that gap year. Or, you know, you hear somebody say, yeah, I took a gap year. Oh, what'd you do? Well, I mentored under this guy and I was on the best schedule of my life. And I was killing it, crushing it. That sounds like, you know, a maximized gap year.
Why take a gap year when you could just take summer classes? Why take a gap year and not graduate early? How does this set you up in a better place than all of your peers who are trying to graduate in 4 years?
Yeah, I would probably seem that way for sure. But I mean, really what's inspired the gap year was this insane internship that my dad did, Southwestern. I just kind of heard like how it changed his life. I just kind of heard about his experience and really like what motivated him to do it. So that's what drew me to do it. So got selected from it. I just changed so much from it and experienced a lot from it. I mean, which also translated to the income, which was pretty nice as well. Just to give you a little idea. So my first summer made about 12,000, second summer, 18,000. This past summer made about 36. So that's also been
while you're in
really
college,
cool,
right?
While I'm in college, yeah.
Nice. That's like $66,000 over 3 summers.
Yes, sir. It's been good to me.
That is a chunk of money in your college years so far, because you're only a sophomore. Definitely on the way to graduating debt-free, I would assume. Tell me about what you're trying to get out of this gap year. Like, what's the growth goal? How much are you trying to make while you're doing it? Because I think there's value there if it makes sense for you. I was somebody who graduated a semester early. I did not do a gap year. I did maximize my summers like crazy with the Southwestern program, just like you are. Yeah, walk us through that.
100%. So the growth goal is to double what I did last year, make about between 60 and 70,000 this year, which is pretty crazy sounding as a sophomore going into college. But
21 years old, the average income's like 50,000 in the US.
Yeah, that's the goal. And how I plan on doing it, I mean, it's really just going to be focusing on like the people that I work with. Because I mean, my first summer in Southwestern, it was really just all about myself. And then the more I've kind of gone through the program, the less it's become about me. And it's more about the people that I work with and helping them grow and helping them develop. Because from that, I've grown exponentially. That's kind of the map.
So you're going to be a recruiter, like a leader, full-time recruiter?
Yeah.
Where will you be recruiting at?
So I'm going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, in the A.
Okay, but like what school?
A couple different ones. Georgia Tech, Georgia State, doing a couple career fairs, UGA, Kennesaw State. It's really kind of spread out, but Georgia Tech and Georgia State are going to be the two main ones that I'll be at.
Georgia Tech, Georgia State. Okay. Well, if you go to those schools and you ever listen to this, which I'm sure lots of people will, get in contact with Ian. We'll put like a little form or email in the description form. You probably love having a conversation with him. So like, why this Southwestern thing? Why is this valuable to you? Like for people who don't know what it is, like, what do you get out of this thing? I mean, it just sounds difficult and weird. Yeah.
I mean, so the income's obviously nice, but I think one really cool thing that I've gained is the connections. So my dad did it for 4 summers back in the 90s. And like I said, that's kind of what drew me to doing it, was just hearing his experience about it. But I mean, just simply from the connections that I've made outside of him, not knowing anybody going into this, just the people that I've been able to connect with from over 100 different campuses, 50 different countries, just outrageous numbers of like the diverse network within the company. So it's like I have tons of friends in, Nashville, Mississippi, and they're not just like people that I can, just call up and talk with, but it's like people that I actually want to do life with. So, I'll go run marathons with these people. I'll go, just do crazy stuff with all these people that I genuinely want to be around. What I found, it's a little bit cooler than just, people that I met in class and go hang out with on a Saturday night or whatever. It's like we want to do life together, which is really cool.
You're going to be recruiting, working with a lot of students, and you're obviously as a college student. What do you think is the biggest thing that you see while you're talking to people of the Gen Z? What do you think holds people back from helping them reach their potential?
I definitely would say fear. That's probably the biggest thing. Like seeing that people have gotten comfortable with what they've always known, right? So it's like, you growing up, and if you haven't faced a lot of adversity and you've kind of just been able to stay inside of your comfort zone for the majority of your life, then you kind of just do the same thing that you've always done. And so just from like interviewing people, just talking with my friends who haven't done something as extreme as Southwestern, it's kind of like they just don't get it. I've done this really challenging and extreme thing, and then I'm just kind of conversating with them, and it's like these, just little things get to them, and it's like, dude, like if only they could have a little taste of like what you've experienced, then it's like they would know like, oh yeah, dude, getting a flat tire is nothing. It's crazy seeing like the difference between people who faced a lot of adversity versus people who have been able to stay inside their comfort zone and haven't really been forced outside of that. So
it's similar to the idea, right? If you always wash your hands and Lysol your entire house and you walk out, you get really sick very easily.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because people try to keep their comfort zone super clean, right? They want to keep the germs out.
Yeah.
They want to be in control. And what you're saying, we talk about in the show a lot about challenging yourself to do what you really want to do. Because usually what we really want to do isn't what we're currently doing, which is funny. Yeah. Isn't that funny? How what we really want to do most of the time is not currently what we're working towards. We always essentially do the same thing over and over, and we get the same result, and we're upset at ourselves for some reason. But it makes sense. There's not many opportunities to go actually challenge your comfort zone as much as you do in a program like this because of how difficult it is. It's the difference between running a mile and thinking you're really cool and running an ultra marathon, and the difference in mentalities almost.
Yeah.
Because obviously an ultra marathon, if you're listening and you just went like, whoo, not me, that's exactly the mentality switch that an ultra marathon person says, like, I can do anything. I could do that. And I think the mentality is the biggest differentiator between living a life of purpose, doing things that you want to do that you believe is possible, and limiting yourself, right? And that's what happens
100%.
in the comfort zone. So give us a story. Give us one moment that overhauled your comfort zone and built some confidence that made you want to keep doing something as extreme as Southwestern.
It's kind of funny just because the summers, I think where the most growth happens for me is like right after the summer. So the transition from the summer to school year. And my first summer, I remember going to a Southwestern awards banquet a couple weeks after the summer had finished. And I kept hearing about people running marathons. They're like, yeah, how'd you do well? And they just kept talking about, I got outside my comfort zone right before the summer, ran marathon, whatever. I was like, I just kept hearing it. I was like, you know what? I guess I'm gonna have to do this. So I signed up for my first marathon. It was 3 weeks from that awards banquet, which was a couple weeks after the summer. I did it with a couple of Southwestern people, but it was just the tools that I had learned in Southwestern was really what propelled me through the race. So showed up, I'd done some training beforehand, but it was like a very short time frame, not a lot of prep, but I was just feeling really jacked up and amped up after the summer, just from what I'd done. And through all the experiences that I went through during the summer, I actually used those during the race as like confidence anchors. It was great, man. Just like realizing as a whole from the summer, just like how you go from door to door, rejection after rejection, one foot in front of the other. It's the exact same thing. If you look at the summer as a whole, it's really easy to like, get super overwhelmed by like, oh my God, 12 weeks of working 80-hour weeks and knocking on constant doors, getting rejected all the time. But it's the same thing as during the race. If I look at like 26 miles of something that that I had very little time to prepare for, then I'm probably gonna like bonk out in my mind and just not even want to do the thing. But just taking it chunk by chunk and breaking it up, I was able to complete it, and it was a great experience. Learned a lot.
Yeah, and that's the habit that you can take away for the rest of your life too. When you have a big goal, if you look at, oh my gosh, I have to be there tomorrow, it'll never happen. Whether it's sports or whether it's music, whether it's your career, it's going to take time. And I think people have to learn patience. And that's something that a lot of people need to get as soon as possible, is to really understand what patience is and understand how the power of consistency and habits make a big difference over time. One step in front of the other is not difficult. 26 miles sounds miserable, but one step, if you just kept taking one step in front of the other, you can make 26 miles. So I think that's really good. So Ian, thank you for being on the show. Again, we'll have Ian's email in the description. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Give us some comments, what your favorite part of the episode was. Follow the podcast on Instagram at the Knowledge Gap Podcast if you don't yet. And hopefully it bridges some gaps in your knowledge gap so you can have more success in your 20s. And we'll see you at the next one.